when I started teaching clinics, I didn't have a program. I just was teaching clinics, and I would help everybody with everything that I could, this technique or that technique. And luckily, I started having people that were English riders as well as Western riders, and I had people that were into competitions as well as into recreational trail riding or endurance riding. So over the years, 25 of them, I've had pretty near every type of horse person, whatever they're interested in, whatever their confidence level or competence level is. English, Western, racing, it just doesn't matter, polo. And it wasn't until I met Linda that I realized I needed to develop a program. It wasn't until I developed a program that it was more than just teaching people techniques about, you know, how to play the 7 games on the ground and how to do this and how to do that. They're trying to get people to progress to a higher level, to level 3, to level 4 and beyond. This is where we started noticing that their equipment was getting in their way, all right? So this is all of a sudden where, you know, you're going, you know, if you mess with the ingredients, you're messing with the results. So it takes a certain amount of dedication, and we've got a lot of dedicated students. Matter of fact, it just blows me away every time I do a seminar or we do a Savvy conference here in Colorado, how dedicated some people are. And if it's something as simple as the saddle and their pad, that's what's keeping them from being able to do that. I mean, that's keeping them from their dream. So to me, this is the thing that is so exciting. And I remember 15 years ago saying, within the next 10 years, and that's already 5 years ago, that in the next 10 years, that advancements will be made for horses, in the bits, in the saddles. I didn't even think about the pads, but the pads, the shoeing, the dental work, the nutrition. And this is, mark my words, it's already happening, and people are making advancements. There's going to be more too. But this is what, to me, having a program is that it's all encompassing. It's not just how you do this and how you do that, because if you're doing the right thing with the wrong, something that's actually causing your horse to feel negative about, you know, I can't do it because my shoulders can't move, whatever those things are, then it's pretty hard to advance, to be progressive. And there's nothing worse than not being able to realize your dream.
Western saddles, by and large, are more comfortable for horses than English saddles because they cover a wider surface area, which means there's a larger area of weight distribution. Whereas the smaller a saddle is, or the narrower it is, the less weight distribution it has. So a lot of horses often are more comfortable from the weight-bearing point of view. But where things go wrong is that the saddle can be too narrow at the front. It's put up too high on the horse's shoulders, and I'll show you what damage that does in a minute. And also that there's a thing called rock. Like if you lift the saddle up like this, just catch the back of it. When you look down here, can you see how flat and open that is? And there's hardly any curve. It just starts to open away here. Saddles, some saddles, they actually bulge like that because they fit the horse's back at rest. And horses are kind of sagged down when they're just standing around, but once they start moving, their backs come up and they widen and flatten out. And so you want to make sure that the saddle has little to no rock at all, and it fits a horse's back when it's in motion, not when it's standing still. So you see how flat and open that is?
Yep.
And then combined with the Theraflex pad, it just makes it like a really nice feeling on the horse's back.
Okay.
And then it widens out here to accommodate, you know, where the shoulders come underneath. And I'll show you how we put that on so that we have minimal disturbment, if there's such a word, minimal disturbing of the scapula.
What's unique about the Parelli Equiflex is two things. Number one, Equiflex itself has probably spent a couple of $1 million in research getting the composite right, getting it to where it was, you know, because there has to be a certain stoutness. I've tried treeless saddles. You've got to have, you know, there's got to be some support there. You can't just be, you know, flopping around up here. There's got to be support, but there's got to be a certain amount, maybe 80-20, something like that. I don't know what it is, but actually, put one underneath my rear end and said, try this. And well, that's kind of interesting. And it was good. It felt good to me. My horses felt good. But as I examined it, they didn't quite have it, the shape right for what I was looking for what our belief was. So we helped in getting the foundation to where it didn't have so much rock to it, because the rock just keeps compressing those, makes your horse look like a banana. That's part of it. The other part is Linda, through her research and getting people to ride better, finding where the balance point is and getting that. And most people don't know this about a saddle tree. When you build a saddle tree, it's made out of wood, you cover it with rawhide or fiberglass these days. Then the saddle maker has to take and put a piece of metal in there. Then he has to put leather in there, and that's called the ground seat. That's what we're talking about this balance point back here. So it's a V-shaped sort of a thing that goes in every saddle. Then you can start building the saddle. Well, I've had the same saddle maker make me 5 and 6 saddles, exactly the same. But every saddle felt different to my bum because the ground seat was made by man. It was a little bit different every time. There was no perfection. Well, this is where the Parelli Equiflex tree is the technology that they had, plus the shape for the bars, and the ground seat is duplicatable, perfect every single time.
So now, the next thing is, a lot of Western saddles are artificially built up in the front. And the idea of that is to help a rider sit back on their balance point. A lot of Western riders are absolutely on their balance point, unlike English riders. But here's the problem. The saddle is built up for the rider, but the bars are still kind of downhill on the horse. And so now if you try to shim up that kind of saddle, it actually puts you too far back and it doesn't help the horse at all. So our saddles are not artificially built up, and so then when you sit them on the horse, you can see where you have to shim them in order to get the saddle in the right position for both the horse and the rider. So I'll show you that. But first of all, I want to show you what it feels like to sit on a saddle when it's a little bit downhill. Okay? So sit on that. And it's a fairly comfortable saddle, so you might go, oh, that doesn't feel too bad. But you have to kind of work to get yourself back there.
Yeah.
Now, you won't realize how much you're working until I change the angle of the saddle. Okay?
I do
So I'll
feel
grab some shims.
like I want to lean forward.
So what I'm going to do is shim up the front of the saddle so it lifts it up a little bit, and that gives the horse more room to move and lift his forehand, and it also completely changes the feel for the rider. So I'm just using these shims from our Theraflex pad, and I'll show you how we work all that on the horse, but right now I just want you to feel the difference in the saddle. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you just lift that up, I'm just going to put these under the front of the saddle. Make sure they haven't slipped down too far. Okay, and now sit on it and tell me how it feels.
Yeah. Now I feel like my weight wants to be here. It's not.
You don't have to work at it.
Yeah.
You're just naturally there.
Yeah, and I also feel that I'm more anchored here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can get on your balance point. So that's what we'll do. And like I said, having it artificially built up for the rider is one thing. The rider will feel good, but we've got to have it feel good for both the horse and the rider. Okay? Now, just a couple of things for you to note. On a Western saddle, you have 2 cinches. Okay, there's a back cinch and a front cinch. And the reason for that is that the saddle is so long. Like the bars of a Western saddle are quite long compared to an English saddle. And so then if you only anchor at the front, you can get this going on at the back. And also you have to over tighten it here to try and keep it stable. Whereas when you've got 2 cinches, it anchors the back of the saddle and the front of the saddle, and then you can kind of share the pressure instead of having to overdo it in the front. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then we just do this. We've got a little keeper right here. And when you unsaddle, you put your cinches up like this. You keep them straight so that there's no twist in them. See how that's straight like that? Mm-hmm. And then you just put this one through like that and hang it upside down on this little keeper. You don't turn it around and do this. See how that would twist it?
Yeah.
You do that. And now when you carry your saddle around, it doesn't drag the cinches through the dirt.
Okay.
Okay? All right, let's look at